And what I also see is that CEO or founder say, okay, I need to hire a CRO or a head of sales. Okay, let's talk about that. Why do you want to do that? What's the reason? What's the time frame to go from stage 2 to stage 3? What's the average cycle length? Well, we don't know. Or it's 6 months. 6 months, like you start to get into that, and you start to realize, where are we broken?
With me today, I have Adam Kucera. He's the CEO of Leader at Large, driving revenue growth by building scalable operations. And you should listen to what he has to say today, because we're going to talk about operational excellence and stable scalability. Adam, how are you doing today?
I'm awesome.
Now, Adam, can you tell me a little bit more about the first one so we can go straight into it? What do you see when you talk with your clients about implementing operational excellence? How does that look like? What are the steps that you would take?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's about building systems and processes that are repeatable, and also that collect data that is also very actionable. How I approach my consultations, or how working with companies, giving advice, is just, and even just in my own day-to-day, is just really diving into how things happen from start to finish, and always making sure that there's an understanding of the why. And then again, that measurement is critical so that you understand what's happening. You can look at that data and you can adjust accordingly. When it's going really well, you can double down. When it's not going well, you can adjust and know that you need to make that change.
When you're looking at why it happens and how it happens, people typically say, like, of course I have a full control understanding of what is happening. What are some of the misconceptions, or what are some of the metrics they keep missing, but they feel like they have a clear understanding?
Yeah, I mean, certainly first, when you're in it every day, right? We've all heard the expression, can't see the forest for the trees, right? There's a great book we talked a little bit about when we spoke before, called Sway, that is just a phenomenal book that I've referenced back to, Ori and Ron Brathman wrote. That people, once they're entrenched in their understanding and their beliefs, right? They don't even realize that they are focused on and kind of in the mix of what they do on a day-to-day basis. They don't necessarily see some of the things that they are missing, right? Whether that is operational, whether that is within their staff, their culture, their product. Sometimes you get so involved in the product doing something very specific, you kind of maybe can lose track of the things that go around that. So what often happens is by having someone like myself, or just a third party come in, or a new CRO, a new leader for marketing, whatever it might be, it's a fresh perspective. Having that conversation and taking that objective viewpoint, then you can really start to shift the way and unstick where your company is, or where your product is, whatever it might be.
It sounds like sometimes a person just needs a third party, kind of a perspective that is not something they're used to, or they've heard it from their own team. They need some sort of like an outside perspective. How do you approach someone that feels like they've been doing this for 20 years and there's a lot of pushback? Like, I don't want to listen to you, Adam. I've been doing this for 20 years. What are you gonna tell me new that I don't know? How do you approach those conversations?
I mean, it's a great question. I think one of the things, I always like to ask questions, right? But one question I think is always kind of starts to unravel some of the things, or unblock the conversation a little bit, is just, well, are you achieving all that you want to achieve? If the answer is yes, then you don't need anybody's help. You're doing great, right? Keep doing it. But for the most part, most people will say, oh, yeah, I mean, I haven't, broken into, the European market like I wanted to, or I haven't, gone, I want to open a second store or a location, but I haven't done it yet. Well, okay. Well, let's talk about why. What's stopping you? And so you kind of can get people to kind of give you some of that entry point, and help to uncover what is blocking them, what is, why they might need some help in that outside, perspective. And so I always like to start there. It's just, are you achieving everything you want to? What are your goals? Getting into that, and then you start to find out, okay, well, let's focus on that particular goal that's not being met, or that thing where you feel like you might be struggling. Let's talk about that, and and let me give you some perspectives and thoughts, and let's have a conversation, right? And you might not need, again, somebody, to hire somebody. You might not need to do those things, but having that conversation with somebody who isn't in it every single day can help you kind of loosen up some of that perspective.
When someone is in that position, like you were talking, do I hire, do I get fractional or something like that?
Yeah.
How does someone know if they have reached that inflection point of making those conversations in their mind, and what are some of the signs?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I often see is a founder-led organization, right? It could be still really small. It could be, even to a point of an SMB kind of, they've already over 100, employees and so on, but they're at that point where the CEO, founder, is feeling like they can't let go, or that they're, if they were maybe very product-driven person, their product isn't what they want to, but they don't want to let go of the sales or some of the things that they're heavily involved in. So they're at that point where they feel like they don't know where they need to apply their time. And what I also see is that CEO or founder say, okay, I need to hire a CRO or a head of sales. Okay, let's talk about that. Why do you want to do that? What's the reason? Well, because I need to be focused on strategic, implementations, or I need to get more focused on the product because we've kind of lost our way. And I've been doing 95% of the sales up to this point, so I'm just going to bring somebody in to sell. What I often say to those individuals is, let's talk about it. Are you ready? Is your company and your organization ready to bring somebody in to sell? Because oftentimes that seller is great at selling. They're great at talking and bringing in their network and going out and selling the product. But if you don't have the underlying organizational and operational structure in place, then as a CEO, you're going to always wonder, is it working? What's going on with sales? You're constantly going to be, hey, what's the pipeline looking like? It doesn't look like I expect it to look. You're going to have all these questions, and it's going to pull you back into that sales world. And so that's really where I focus on kind of driving those people that are in that transition, in that inflection point, as you pointed out, to say, let's build that structure, right? Let's build out what that system looks like, so that when you do bring in a sales team or a head of sales and so on, that they have that support structure to succeed and do what they're really, really good at. Let's build that structure so that you have the reporting, you have the data, you have the analytics, you have the systems in place to make sure that they can succeed. And if you can do that, and that doesn't take years, that can take just a few months, right? Now you are set up in a way that it's going to succeed, and it's going to allow you to truly take that step into a strategic role, versus always kind of feeling like you have to stay connected in some way because you don't trust the process. You don't have some of the visibility that you're used to. So that's usually where I start off.
And it sounds like sales or product development, they're like the two things that are the first ones that you try for the founder-led company to kind of address. You're going to focus on product development, or you're going to focus on sales, and let's build systems around those two things. When you're looking at building those systems for the company, for the CEO to basically let go, is there a difference in approaching sales structure and systems and product control, product development systems?
Oh, certainly. I mean, it's really your audience, right? So if it is sales, then you're dealing with conversational intelligence, CRMs, all the tools that outreach programs and solutions, right? They need that. And then where does that data come, and how does that reporting in? If it's product driven, then it's project management tools and Figmas and depending on what you're trying to build. And so it really can be is very different. I would say that the unifying factor, right, is the communication, right? What I've seen repeatedly, and this really starts to become a little bit more of an issue as you get to the 50, 100 plus employees and in multiple parts of the departments. When it's smaller, when it's 5 or 10, this isn't as big of an issue. But when it does get a little bit bigger, communication is key, right? What is coming down the development pipeline for your SaaS product? What is the next iteration? When is that next release? Because sales needs to understand when a new product is going to become available, when pricing might have to change, etc. And coordinating between those two, having an active communication and feedback back and forth is super critical. And I found, I know, meetings are a 4-letter word in a lot of organizations. Like, I don't want to need another meeting. Why do we always have these meetings? Usually that means that the meetings are run very poorly. We can talk about that, but really it is having that consistent check-in with the leaders from those groups, the founder and the CEO that is still trying to manage those things, and make sure that there is an active communication of what's happening, what has happened, right? So there's a clear understanding of that, what's going to happen. And then when those dates are put into, hey, we're going to release on the second week of next month, are we on track? What's the blockers? And then making sure that we stick to that and it doesn't continually slip and cause problems. So to me, a lot of that communication and organization, it creates that opportunity for people to communicate between each other, but also upstream to the CEO, the founder, so that CEO and founder can weigh in, understand what's happening, knows who's working on what, feels confident that what they need to have happen for the growth of that company is effectively taking place. And it's an opportunity to hold people accountable. And oftentimes that doesn't occur, and everybody works in their own silos, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, what did we release yesterday? But that completely goes against what we've been talking about. And what do you mean it costs more? Like, we've all seen it. You're smiling, right? You've seen it, right? It happens, and then people start to get very frustrated, and that's just inefficiency. And I hate inefficiency. And so if you can create that communication within the organization, you start to avoid a lot of that, and you end up with better products. You end up with a better sales motion, and you're just overall more successful. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
It feels like it's an obvious kind of statement when we're talking about communication is the solution to find all these things. How does someone that has let's say they have some of the systems, how can they do like a diagnostics or a check if it's the systems, or if it's people can't talk with them because they have a problem communicating with the rest of their team?
Yeah. One of the things that I do, and I think that I'm a very visual learner, right? So I say that I communicate in PowerPoint sometimes because, but it's about the visualization. And what I mean by this is if you can put it down in writing, it could be a whiteboard session, it could be in a Figma, it could be in Visio or PowerPoint. It doesn't matter the tool, but the key is look at from inception, and this could be, let's say, we'll just talk about sales, right? Okay, how are we going out to get a lead? How are we converting that lead? What is the sales cycle for, from the beginning conversation all the way to close won, close lost, the transition into customer success and onboarding, potentially even to renewal. If you can map that out physically, visually map that out, what you start to find are the holes. And well, how did I get from here to here? Well, how long is that taking? And you start to ask those questions. And when you have people in the room and you start to look through that and you start to understand the data that and the analytics throughout that, holes will pop up. Guaranteed, holes will start to pop up. You can start to discuss that, how to solve those, how to plug those holes, how to, maybe you ask the question, what's the time frame to go from stage 2 to stage 3? What's the average cycle length? Well, we don't know. Or it's 6 months. 6 months, like you start to get into that, and you start to realize, where are we broken? And it could be systematic, it could be process driven, it could be user error, right? Where it's just not getting moved appropriately. It could be, well, that's when it moves from the SDR to the account manager, and sort of up to the SDR is supposed to move that. No, the account manager is supposed to move that. wait, well, no, I have to get, it has to meet this criteria first. Well, no, I'll move it to the right. But discussing it, going through it end to end, and understanding every single step along the way. I know it feels tedious and it feels like, oh, that's just a waste of time. But the amount of efficiency that you will extract from that exercise at the end of the day will be immeasurable. I mean, it will save so much more time. It will give you so much more insight, in your processes. It's well worth a day if you have to take it. It shouldn't even take that, but going through that is super critical. And I find that it really gets everybody on the same page that there's some things that we need to work on. There's some things that we need to fix, and let's work on. I can see that this is going to help us.
And I can say that in my company, I've done, I did that a long time ago, and that's how I understood in my LinkedIn outreach process that there is this, I call it now retargeting 2.0, which is, okay, someone said they're interested, and they said, talk to me in 3 months, and then we messaged them in 3 months and nothing happened. So what happens to those people? Not the regular ones that said, let's talk in 3 weeks, because those are easy follow-ups. But what happened to someone that said, let's talk in 6 months, and you followed up once, and what happened then? And this is where we introduce the other pieces to the puzzle, because once I mapped it out, I'm like, oh, there's nothingness, just like nothingness. Where they're not wrong.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just,
when you do that, right? It's just like the light bulb truly goes off, and you uncover more revenue, you uncover more leads that you didn't pay for a second time. I mean, it's exciting. I mean, I get very passionate and very excited about this because it can really change the dynamic of a revenue generating organization and an overall organization when you can understand that process. And you talked about product, right? I've been on, dealt a lot with product development and launch and so on, all the way from manufacturing to packaging and literally putting a physical thing on a shelf, right? And when you understand all those components, you start to realize, oh, this element is super critical, and this cost of, changing the color or the size of this packaging or the materials, that cost has to be accounted for, and those things can get missed at different points, and can change, and then you can price something and not realize that your profitability has been shrunk because you missed a step, you missed a component. So it can happen in product, it can happen in sales and marketing, and in my mind, it all goes together. You could trace all the way from product development through manufacturing to go-to-market, marketing, sales, customer success. That is the life cycle. Now, that's a lot to take in, right? So I wouldn't encourage anybody necessarily to jump right to that. But I would certainly look at sales and marketing probably together, product, and you break down each of those different elements. Eventually, you will have that full picture, and that overall efficiency can be really, really game changer for an organization.
If someone sees this, like you said, it is a big undertaking, so there's a lot of time that you want to plan and organize. Have you seen some of your clients or the ones that you work with, have you seen them using AI maybe to improve this process or identify things, or are there like technological pieces to this puzzle that can help, or that's not the place for AI at this point in the process?
I mean, I think it is. AI is certainly starting to come into play. I would say it starts to come into play as you get into some of the smaller pieces, right? You ask that question like, well, we don't know what our close won, close loss, reasoning is. Well, we can talk about it as a group, and we all might have 80 years of industry knowledge combined together, right? But you know what? Let me just throw that question into AI and ask for what are some of the things that I should consider when looking at, close won and close lost characteristics in measurement. Even if there's one idea that we didn't think of, then AI, that was helpful, right? Now, can you plug all of that into AI and extract that? I haven't seen anything that's really able to do that yet. And I worry that what AI can also do is consolidate incorrectly. And so it can take, when you look at this overarching broad scope, broad view, and you plug all that, all right, tell me where I can improve this, and you plug that into AI, it might shrink it, it might convolute it because it doesn't understand your business. So I would encourage people, and I certainly use it for individual small elements, and kind of, where could I improve this, or asking that question to add a few more components to the conversation. But I haven't seen that develop yet. I think it could be amazing though. I mean, it is something that could help a lot of folks, to be that third party, to ask those questions and to help uncover some of those inefficiencies. But I certainly haven't seen that yet. I'd love to see it.
And when we're looking at trying to find inefficiencies, people will always come with creative ideas and creative stuff. But you probably have heard this one several times, where you're talking about scalability, and they're talking that this is scalable and that they are scaling. And a lot of entrepreneurs or business owners throw that word left, right, and center. But scalability doesn't mean that you have profitability. How does someone scale without scaling their problems?
Well, I mean, I don't want to sound redundant, but I mean, it is understanding, your processes. So if you're scaling, let's just say, if you're scaling your sales, right? I want to scale my sales. Okay. Well, then you need, if you're going to grow your sales team, then you need to grow your leads to go into that team. You need to make sure that you have the systems to hand off to customer success, et cetera. So I think that, again, it's understanding, if you're going to scale an element of your business, then are all of the supporting cast, if you will, whether those are the systems or processes, or those are people, right, or those are expenses that are going to go into that, is understanding, are you ready to do that? Because oftentimes, it is, I've allotted $1 million to expand my sales organization so that I can, go to APAC, because I feel like there's a huge opportunity in APAC to be able to grow our business, and we could go do that. Okay, but that $1 million for your sales team, if you don't also have the money allotted for marketing to drive the leads and to go out and extend your brand into APAC, then you're going to waste a lot of salespeople's time, and that staffing those people sitting there going, well, I'm here, I'm in Australia, and I'm ready to sell, but nobody's ever heard of us. Nobody hears our product. We're not involved in any events. I guess I need to start making cold, I've seen this, right? Then it becomes, well, sales isn't doing their job. They need to go, work harder, right? And sales is going, well, marketing's not giving us any leads, and marketing going, well, I don't have any budget for APAC. I can give you a little bit, but I can't really do much. That's super inefficient. That's very frustrating for everybody involved. It's frustrating for the salespeople. It's frustrating for marketing. Frustrating for the CEO, CRO, whatever it might be, because they got all this money, which was great, but they didn't have a plan in place to make sure that they were able to execute on that spend with all that supporting cast and characters that go into that. And I've seen it many, many times. I've seen that with cross-selling, right? I've seen that with a new product that gets released. Those things, when you go out and you spend a ton of money to launch a new product, but if you aren't ready because that product maybe appeals to a different audience or a different vertical or a different industry, if you haven't prepared your marketing, your sales to execute in that new environment, then it's going to look like you built a bad product when you just built a bad execution plan. And again, I know it sounds redundant, but it is about understanding that end to end and all of the affected components, and really mapping that out so that you feel confident that if you're going to release this new product, that you can get the absolute most out of it, and not try to recover 6 months down the road when you're throwing up your hands going, why isn't this working? Why aren't we selling enough? And you're just pointing fingers at whose fault it is. At the end of the day, oftentimes it's the CEO, it's the founder, it's the top level, it's their fault. because they didn't put the right plan in place. And that's hard for people to kind of turn that mirror on themselves to go. I mean, it really is. And that's why, again, I think that when you can bring in a little bit of a different voice, somebody who isn't, kind of worried about their own budget, they're not worried about their own job, they're not worried about, well, this is, how is this going to affect me or make me look? Somebody can come in and have that perspective and say, let's take a fresh look and let's understand what needs to happen here before it breaks, hopefully. And really take that closer look, and that can, again, it can save so much time, so much energy, I think that's what I like to do personally, is to get involved with companies that are in that point or at that point, and help them through those situations.
And because you were mentioning that there's a lot of involvement that you've done with sales and with that part, and it does make sense if the marketing doesn't support it. Sales and marketing usually kind of like merge together, but they're very different stuff that they execute. Yeah, they are very close, but it's a different objectives they both have. Have you seen what are the successful pieces that you've seen to an affiliate program? Because these are often used in a very good way. Sometimes they've used in a horrible way where someone's like, we're giving out this and no one wants it. Well, maybe something is off. What are the components of a successful affiliate program?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll answer it a couple different ways. So in an established organization, right, an affiliate program should just be viewed as another sales channel, right? Most companies have their internal sales team. They might have a partner sales team, but then an affiliate is different, right? It's a unique entity, separate in my mind to a partner program through a brick and mortar, whatever where your product might be. And if you look at it separately, then you should look at the budget, profitability, how are they compensated, what kind of materials need to be created that are either the same. I've had teams that have built supporting materials for sales and so on for all multiple different channels. And oftentimes it's just changing the name on the front page, or like, oh, this is the affiliate job aid, or this is the affiliate one sheeter. Okay, well, it's the exact same that I created for my sales team. Sometimes you have to create some unique things, but when it comes to process and so on. So I think that it is about just understanding it, treating it like another department, another division, or channel within your organization. Now, on a smaller end, I actually had this conversation within the last couple of months with a company that I'm working with, startup. And initially, the founder, CEO wanted to hire a head of sales. That's how they were going to grow. That's how they were going to go to market. They were going to bring in a head of sales, and that head of sales was going to go out, be a seller, and be, the one that was going to drive new customers. And as we sat down and talked, I felt like they were in a position that they didn't have a huge amount of money to go and spend on that. And they needed to be very efficient. And so my recommendation for them was, let's start with an affiliate program. That is going to be our go-to-market, is go out with a very basic affiliate program, start with your own network, right? That's your first 10 affiliates. And then you build from there, and you can put a button on your website, and you can go out and you can create people that are like, I want to sell that thing. That looks great. I want to be an affiliate, right? And you start to build that out, and the cost of that is extremely small. Because you're really only paying an affiliate when they actually sell something for you or bring you a successful lead, etc. And so the cost outlay is minimal. It can allow you to get a lot of questions answered of your go-to-market strategy. Is my talking points working? Who should I be going after? What are my verticals? What's my TAM? What's my my audience? All for very little cost. And then out of that, you develop those processes, you confirm your profitability calculations, you put together these materials that you're using and so on. You have your success stories that you can extract to go to market and so on. Now, at some point in the future, now you can say, okay, I'm now ready to bring in a salesperson or someone to lead my sales division, which might actually even come from your affiliate network, right? Because that person who was killing it, now actually you can bring them in-house and they already understand the product. But that can be a very effective way to go to market, is to even start with that. So it can depend on where you are as a business, how you can use an affiliate program, but I can see them, I have seen them being very, very effective, and really fairly low cost, low risk.
Now, this is the successful stuff that we see with an affiliate program. What are some of the stuff, if someone has an affiliate program that is not performing well, what are some of the stuff they should look at, that you see, you kind of see it all the time, that is now really working? Like an example, like we give 20%, like good, but what about this? What is the unique thing? What can they do to change or kind of evaluate the existing affiliate program if it's good or bad?
That's a good question. I mean, I think it's about providing the support necessary for that affiliate, right? Any affiliate, and this is the same thing I would say for a partner, right? When you have a partner organizations, right, that are selling your product, that affiliate oftentimes is selling multiple things. Your product is probably not the only thing that they do on a day-to-day basis that brings them money, right? And so you have to make sure that they feel like it's an easy process to sell the product, that they feel really, really comfortable talking about the product. It's not confusing or well, it's sometimes, or I'm not sure. I mean, it could either be, we could deliver it probably within the next week to 6 months. Like if it's very confusing, then it's more hassle than it's, and so you have to really create that, the calculation in their head that this is easy. I like the product. It's something that doesn't take a lot of effort for me to go and talk about. I can make money. I always get paid on time. It's good money, but for what I put in. And I know that I have the support that if I bring this lead, to you, Zipco, and I say, here's my lead, if you sell it, you'll give me $100, and 1 out of 20 gets sold. Well, then what am I doing? That's not worth my time, right? But if it's 12 out of 20, okay, then that makes sense. And let me figure out how to, re-engage those other 8 to try again, and so it's about making sure that they feel really confident and they want to go out and sell for you and sell your product and talk about you, because they're not an employee and they have other things, and you want their mind share as much as humanly possible. And it's not always just about money. I will tell you that it's not always just, well, I'll pay for their mind share. You can do that in some respects, and you can certainly, it's important to get the initial, but if it doesn't work, the product doesn't work, the process doesn't work, and they don't feel comfortable with the tool or the solution, it doesn't matter how much you're paid.
When someone is looking at your process and your advice of you should map out stuff, you should understand if you're going to do some sales, you definitely involve the marketing budget there, because you will just have a blame game between departments. If you want to hire, maybe don't hire a head of sales, look at your affiliate programs, look at some of the stuff that you can do. What are some of the other things that you see that are opportunities that we didn't cover for business owners that are on the table? And once you start discussions with them, they usually kind of don't pay attention to them. They oversee those things. But there are definitely opportunities there to be done.
Yeah, I'd say a couple things. Number one, regardless, if I'm talking to somebody who has 2 employees or 200 or 2,000, right? No matter what, data is critical. And it's about understanding that you can pull data from every part of your process, everything that you're doing, but you have to make that usable. That's critical, right? You can say, I have a lot of data. We do. But when was the last time you looked at it? Oh, I don't know, like a couple months ago. I don't know, right? It has to be usable, right? And actionable, right? You should be looking at that. You should be looking at your data as often as possible. I've been in sales roles, where I was looking at data. We had the ability to look at data of what sales were happening multiple times a day, right? Now, we were selling a product that was, high velocity. And so we were able to do be looking at the data and asking those questions as a senior leader, as a CEO, as a founder. You should always be looking at the data and trying to extract more refinement out of everything that you're doing, every piece of data, asking those questions. Why is it this way? How do we get that better? How do we get that lower or higher, whichever you're trying to do? Really in getting involved versus just, did we make more sales this month? The other thing, and this really more starts to become more of a, as you get a larger organization, probably above 100 or maybe in that neighborhood, and certainly much larger, is culture. And a lot of that culture is about enabling your employees to do what they need to do, giving them the resources and the support necessary for them to get better at what they do. And then from a leadership standpoint, if you have a more than a couple dozen leaders, and that means managers, senior managers, VPs, and C-suite, if all of that group is in the 20s, 30s at least, then you should have a leadership development program that helps to make sure that those leaders are really doing not just their job of driving revenue or marketing or product enhancements and so on, but they are helping to build a great team and an organization that will help with employee retention, that will help with productivity. They will understand, how to enable your organization to be successful. I think I'm a big believer in those two things, because it can get lost, or it can feel kind of like, well, we have a good culture, everybody gets along, we have free coffee, and everybody we have a great culture. Well, but your turnover is not great, or you have that one manager that is, yes, the product's great and the sales team is working really hard, so it seems like sales is going well. I'm using sales as an example, but that sales leader is actually not very good, right? Because they just yell, and they don't even understand the data. They don't know how to read it, or they just keep yelling and blaming their staff and yelling at their staff. Well, then you need to identify that, because even if you are being successful, imagine how much more successful you could be if that person was a servant leader, was somebody that really helped engage with their sales team and grow and develop that sales organization. Imagine how much better it could even be. So I'm a firm believer in that. Again, if you have 6 employees, probably not as critical, but certainly the larger you get, it becomes, in my mind, a non-negotiable. You have to start to think about those things in your organization, and that's going to help you grow to have 2,000 employees.
And I think it's important, because sometimes as now we have businesses and now we're CEOs, but at some point we were the employees in these corporations and we were part of these teams. We're like, man, I would stay here, but I hate the manager. I'm leaving because that guy is just horrible to work with. I love everything. I love my colleagues. I love what I do. I'm going to find another competitor and I'll just go there because you left the job because of the manager, the leadership. It was nothing else. And and now that you're on the other side as a CEO, you're like, man, that would hurt if I lose a fantastic talent because I had something in my control to change. Now, if we're looking at leadership development and knowledge sharing and all these things are very, very important. What are some of the books or some of the people that CEOs or leaders should listen to, should read, that will help them have a very successful business?
You've got a lot of books over my shoulder here. I'm a firm believer that you should get as many ideas as possible and then start to apply components. Right? It's not, okay, I read this one book and I use everything in this book to go apply. Might not be the perfect fit for your organization, but multiple sources are always good. Again, I talked about, and I even have a couple of them here, right? I talk about Sway, right, from Ori and Ruff. That's a great one. I am a Malcolm Gladwell advocate, big time. I've read everything that he's put out. Because there's elements, there's components that he tells such great stories. And if you can extract the essence of what he's trying to get to and apply that to your company, your organization, etc., it can have a real shock to the system in a good way. The Bomber Mafia is one of his newer ones. It's about kind of World War II bomber pilots. And there was a belief at the time that this is how you do bombing for war. And this group basically sequestered themselves on a base and said, there's a better way. There's got to be a better way. And they were kind of rogue, right? And they were thought of as being very rogue because they were like, we're doing something that goes against tradition, right? We see this in business, right? How often have we heard this? Well, that's the way we've always done it. Oh my God, if I hear that, I already know there's a problem. Because if it's the way that you've always done it, that means you aren't evolving, you aren't adjusting. And so I'm a big believer in that kind of mentality of let's go through this process. Let's be change agents and be open to change and adjusting those things. I always say there's no sacred cows, right? We can't. It's okay. That thing that we've always done that way. That's the first thing that we should focus on. Let's make sure that is as effective and as great as it can be. And so those are a couple that I'm a big believers in for sure, because again, it's just taking that mindset. And as we've talked about this whole time, Zipco is, as a CEO, as a founder, right? You start to get into this, this mentality and this process. This is what we do. This is what we do every day. Every Monday we do this, or every product does this. This is how we sell it. This is our go-to-market strategy. This is our talking points. Sometimes you need that outside voice or that ability, and that outside voice can come from reading a book and then saying, all right, we're going to try this, right? That's okay. You don't have to hire somebody to do it always. But having that outside voice to say, you know what, let's really dive into this part of our business and make sure that it is as great as we think it is, and challenge ourselves to make it even better. And I think that's something that not enough companies do, not enough leaders do, are willing to say, you know what, I could be completely wrong. Let's start fresh. Let's think about what we're doing. Let's really challenge ourselves and be open to change. And usually, I honestly can't think of a time when that thought process, that process of going through that didn't come out the other end of it. Wow, this was great. We've got a better product. Wow, we've got oh my gosh, I can't believe we haven't been doing this for the last 6 months or 6 years. We've wasted so much time. We need to do this right now, right there. I've never seen it not be a positive outcome.
And I like the approach of taking specific pieces, because I've read a bunch of books, and then there was one podcast that I listened to. I think it was Lex Friedman with Jeff Bezos, and he said that I always speak last. And that's what it took. From 3.5 hours, I didn't like the memos. I'm like, I don't like this memo stuff, but always speak last. I was like, it's true, because everybody will change a little bit there. You don't know what the notes are that they brought to the meeting because you spoke first, and they kind of adjust to that tone. Very few people like, I don't agree with that. So I started implementing that. The moment I heard it, I was like, I think it's really good. And it's those little pieces that you can take. It's not the whole thing that you have to apply every single time. Adam, if someone listens to this whole thing, like, this is fantastic, and I like the advice that this guy is giving, how do people get a hold of you to work with you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, but leaderatlarge.com is my website as well, and you can get a hold of me there. You can also see kind of some of my thinking, and I even have a few resources that are there for free that people can take a look at. But certainly LinkedIn or my website, where both of mine.
Awesome. I appreciate that, because this was very helpful, and I hope people listen to it and kind of take a lot of information here. These are stuff that you can do to, build to last, pun intended. These are things that you sometimes think of like it's short-sighted, or you don't have the time for this. You will pay dividends if you don't do it in the opposite way, because things do break, and when they do break, then it will take you a lot longer to make it sustainable, especially believing that you're scaling. You can scale problems, you can scale non-profitably, you just keep eating into margins. And the advice that you provide, I think, is very valuable, and people should definitely listen to you, talk with you, and see what they can change about their operation to make it an excellent one. So appreciate the time you gave us, and wish you all the best.
Thanks, Ifka. I appreciate it.